Russia might help China invade Taiwan?
Yeah, so that was an interesting thing to see. And I'm not sure how solid this is. It's kind of the idea that if it comes to blows with the US and either Russia or China, the other one will get involved. And so if China invades Taiwan and the US does something about that, Russia will then get involved.
Right. I mean, China is already involved in supporting Russia in the war.
That's right.
So that part is an easy, obvious step, right? Although I think that Russia already is cut off from the West pretty much. So they have a little bit less to lose, whereas China is trying to have its, feet in two boats at this point by, selling a bunch of stuff to Russia, making money, propping up that economy and its own economy, and also trying to maintain as best it can its ties with the West because it needs to export a bunch of, cheap crap, including electric vehicles, but also all the little small stuff they do in order to forestall the collapsing of their economy. So I feel like China would be a little bit more reluctant to do something that's going to get the West to automatically cut them off.
Well, I think the question is, do they believe that the West would automatically cut them off?
Which is a good question because basically China has already crossed the line. They're supporting Russia's military invasion of Ukraine. Absolutely.
It's because they've slowly moved the line so gradually that we haven't really done a good job of responding to it.
This is something that when we had David Stilwell on maybe a few years ago now, he was talking about the problem. He was the former Secretary of State for Asia Pacific, and he was talking about the problem with red lines is that if you put the red line down, then you have to actually enforce it. So the Biden administration had said something about the red line being China actually supplying Russia with military equipment, essentially. And so now it's become apparent that they are. And has the Biden administration had any response to this red line that they said there was? So that's the problem. If you were going to do it, you have to actually, it can't just be a threat, right?
Yeah, and I mean, the U.S. is still welcoming China's help in talking to Russia about the war. Welcoming China's help with the Middle East and talking to Hamas and Fatah that they just hosted last week or 2 weeks ago now. But yeah, China says it's supposedly neutral in the Ukraine war, but yes, it's still backing Russia with equipment, and then also saying in any peace agreement, Ukraine needs to make some concessions, obviously, right?
I mean, that's kind of been their stance from the beginning.
Yeah.
Which is very much Russia's.
Well, and they want that with Taiwan too. Okay, Russia invades Ukraine. Ukraine's got to make some concessions.
I don't understand the logic behind that. Why would the country that's being invaded have to make concessions?
Because if you want peace, both sides have to give something up.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So the invader gets to say you have to make concessions if you want peace. So then they make
no. The invader's friend,
China.
Okay. And then so Ukraine gives up a bunch of stuff, and there's peace. And then Russia invades more of Ukraine later and demands further concessions as in exchange for peace.
You missed a step in there. There's the step where it's okay, peace is back. Let's get completely dependent on Russian natural gas and oil. Germany will be leading that charge.
Yeah.
And then they'll invade again, and then everyone will be screwed, and we'll go through the cycle again.
Well, not until the next Olympics. So we have 2 years between,
When's the next Olympics in an authoritarian country?
It's in Paris this
summer.
This summer.
I was going to say, well, it depends how you feel about France.
One day more.
That is a banger of an Act 1 ender, I have to say, yeah.
The South Park parody of it is fantastic as well.
I have seen that, but I don't remember it anymore.
Yeah, their original movie. The music in that was legitimately great. And they have their big Act 1 closing that is very much based off of One Day More.
And then the creators of South Park went on to write an entire actual musical.
One of the most successful musicals.
Yes. I have not seen Book of Mormon.
Neither have I.
There was one summer where I was like, oh, I'm going to see a bunch of Broadway plays and musicals. And
Did you?
I did, but I can't remember all of the ones that I watched anymore. There was one that Steve Martin had that involved banjo playing that I went to see.
Oh, I kind of remember that.
It's called Bright Star or something like that. It was pretty good. I saw one called like The Band's Visit, which was about an Egyptian band visiting Israel and going to the wrong town.
Huh.
And the guy who played Monk in the TV show Monk was the lead singer guy.
Oh, it's
He was,
interesting how, like,
the
Hollywood
romantic
actors-
lead of
Really?
this. Yes, it was very odd. Yeah.
I mean,
Because monk rhymes with hunk.
that is factually true.
Yes, that is true.
That's why I'm here to provide facts.
Anyway,
I mean, I can't abide Broadway because I don't appreciate derogatory terms like that about women.
okay.
But old-fashioned derogatory terms.
Yeah, when I was in Guys and Dolls, there were a lot of old-fashioned derogatory terms about women in that particular.
I was in Flower Drum Song once. That's that one.
Hold on.
There were not very. Oh yeah, there were not a lot of Asian kids at my school. You want to know? You want to know how they solved that, Shelley?
Did they paint your eyes? Like, did
Oh,
they?
yeah.
Oh, okay. I knew that was coming.
Oh, yeah.
I now vaguely have this memory that you told me this once, but I had completely forgotten about it.
Wow. Things that were okay in the 90s.
Oh,
I mean, was it okay?
Things that were not deemed so problematic that everyone got canceled for
But
it.
I bet one reason you did Flower Drum Song is probably because it's not exactly like a super popular musical. So it was probably a cheaper one to
Probably
do.
cheaper.
Yeah. But yeah, cool. That also is a weird one to do. It is about like Chinese nightclub singers in the 40s or 50s. Like it's not, it's kind of a weird one to have high school students do. But then also we did Guys and Dolls in high school, and they're like one of the female leads is essentially a stripper. So there are like musical numbers that are like strip acts.
I'd be very uncomfortable as a parent in that audience.
Yeah, so there are these teenage girls taking off their clothes. I mean, they wore like leotards underneath, but still, it was stripping.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of things you don't think about.
Yep. In retrospect, it's like, huh, right.
Guys and Dolls. Well,
Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat was probably a better idea.
did he actually have an amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat in the Bible?
I mean, it was a colorful coat. It was a coat of many colors.
There was a coat of many colors.
Yes. Yeah. That was also an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical.
Andrew Lloyd Webber is the best
based
man.
on the Bible.
Yep. He has done everything he has done. It has been perfect and without flaws.
Is there one that you're thinking about in particular as you laugh about this?
Everything. Everything. The Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah. Okay.
The Phantom of the Opera is here inside my mind.
I've never seen Phantom of the Opera either.
We went to class, acting class, with the guy who was Phantom.
Did we?
Or was that just me? Paul? Big, handsome, muscular, half-deformed face, Paul?
I don't remember Paul. Maybe it was just you.
Maybe it was just me inside my mind.
Okay, so the reason that people are talking about Russia maybe helping China invade Taiwan is some officials from the Defense Intelligence Agency were testifying in front of a Senate panel last week, or maybe almost 2 weeks ago by the time this comes out. And they were talking about how China and Russia are increasingly helping each other in all different ways. And then they were asked whether, according to this news article, when asked about whether this dynamic meant the U.S. had to prepare to fight both adversaries at the same time should conflict begin with one, Haynes said it was possible, but the likelihood depended on the scenario. Cruz, however, said it was a greater possibility than it was a few years ago. Bottom line is that basically, if we were to have a conflict with one, the chances are we would have a second front.
Yeah.
The chances.
I mean, it's a greater possibility than it was a few years ago is the way that it was couched.
So there is a chance.
Maybe 2 chances or 3.
Right. But I mean, like, there's always a chance.
Okay, well, I think it's probably more than the chance of me winning the lottery or,
Yeah, because, well, actually, I think Russia is largely, not just the war in Ukraine, but I think it's being largely propped up by the Chinese Communist Party now. So I'm sure if China said jump, Putin come riding in shirtless on his horse.
And then
Say
jump the
how
horse.
high.
Yeah.
Yeah.